Say hello to a new friend on an old road. Take a two-lane trip of memories into mysteries unknown. Come along for the ride. Jim Hinckley's America. Jim Hinckley's America.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Good morning, Joyce.
Good morning.
Be with you in just a second here. We'll give a quick shout out to everyone. It's a delightful 76 degrees here at the studios of Jim Hinckley's America within spitting distance of Route 66 in Kingman, Arizona. It's going to be a great day today, about 95 degrees by the time we get done. Might even rain. That'd be a surprise. I'll have to get a picture of that. I haven't seen that in a bit. Today, we're going to visit with Joyce Harbin Cole, a very talented illustrator and artist and a very good friend and the owner of Home Again on 66 in charming downtown Pontiac, Illinois. So I think we got to have a little bit of fun visiting with a very good friend of mine. Hey, Miss Joyce, how are things you're in Michigan today, right?
Yes, I'm in Michigan, sitting next to beautiful Magician Lake.
Magician Lake.
Just 20 minutes from Michigan, Lake Michigan. So,
okay.
But we're in a little inland lake.
Okay. Yeah, I am not familiar with that too much. My dad's family was all out of Jackson and Vandercook Lake, Michigan. And my little sister was born in Port Huron, Michigan.
Oh, okay.
And I worked up north for a bit, up on Escanaba, Copper Harbor. And I used to take the ferry across the lake a lot from Ludington to Manitowoc on the Badger.
Oh,
and
wow.
And I also worked around Cadillac, Michigan. I forgot about that.
Yeah, I have a friend that lives there. Huh. Yeah, you're a Michigan guy.
Yeah, I ended up there. I'm originally from the South, but like I say, my pa's family was all from the Jackson area, so migrated up there when I was a kid.
Well,
So how are you doing today, young lady?
I'm doing pretty good. I just came up here and kind of relaxing for a little bit. And it's very cold. Not very cold, but it's kind of chilly up here right now.
A little early for that, isn't it?
It is. It got down into the 40s last night, they said. So that's pretty cool.
I've been out in this desert country so damn long that it gets below 80. I look for my long underwear.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have trouble. Will you be at the Miles of Possibility conference in October?
Oh, yes, I'm planning on going.
Great. We look forward to seeing you again.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing you too. But it's always a good time at the Miles of Possibility, and there's so much to learn. So many presenters, and I look forward to it every year.
This year, they're returning to their roots there at the Wildey Theater in Edwardsville. Since it's the weekend of October 31st, I'm sure they're going to have it tied in with a little bit of Halloween festivities.
Yeah, that'll be fun. I have to bring a costume.
So what have you been up to lately? I know you always keep yourself busy.
Yeah, I've been working at the shop a lot and also painting a little. I started a mural that goes around the top of the shop, kind of like a border. Mm-hmm. And I started that last year or the year before and did one side. And it's going to be a trip on Route 66 going around the room.
Oh,
yeah.
Very, very good. I got to see that.
Yeah.
You have a very, very distinctive style of artwork. And anybody who's familiar with the Mother Road Route 66 passport has got a glimpse of your work. You really brought your touches for that passport. Really give it a distinctive touch.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. I've enjoyed working on the passport so much. You and Marion and everybody involved with that is just, a dream to work with, really.
Yeah. Marion's pretty fascinating fella, and he's real easy to work with, and he just his presence kind of inspires you a little bit.
Absolutely, and he's done the road so many times.
Yeah. He spends so much time and money invested in the Route 66 community. He's a real asset.
He certainly is.
How are things doing in Pontiac? Did you have a good season? Busy summer?
Yeah, we've had a busy summer. We started it off with the red carpet corridor, and that went very well. And I actually did a piece of artwork for that this year. I had never done that before. And then we've been busy ever since. Lots of international travelers coming back, which is great. We had a couple slow years there after COVID, but I think we're recovering from that.
Well, the apocalypse of 2020, it changed everything for the better and for worse. And some things will never be the same. But I am seeing a return of our good international visitors. Part of the good news, possibly, is the COVID situation seemed to have lit a fire under Americans to rediscover the road trip. That's a plus.
It sure is. I remember the first year that we were open after that, we did have a lot of Americans coming through and almost no internationals because there was not much air travel happening.
Right.
And, but we had a lot of people coming from all over the United States, which was really pretty fun. Most of them had never really thought about doing Route 66 before. So it was a fun thing to do.
We got Professor Nolan Stoltz with us. Good morning, Mr. Nolan, and Keith. Maggie from Michigan. Maggie May's with us from Michigan. She's with the R.E. Olds Museum in East Lansing, Michigan. Pontiac is one of those. Pontiac, for lack of a better word, is the poster child for how to do it right. You guys have, I use this a lot, but it's very fitting. The folks in Pontiac, and you included, you're a big part of that. You have been able to sell everything on the hog, including the squeal. And you've really show how to do it with class, with style, how to transform a community without making it look like Disneyland, and how to make a town a destination. And more importantly, how to build a sense of community.
Yeah, it's really done a lot for Pontiac. Our downtown is right now may have a couple of empty stores, one in particular, but usually there are no empty stores in Pontiac anymore. And we're very busy with tours coming through and lots of people from all over the United States. Even the locals get a kick out of coming downtown because you can hear all different languages on the streets. And some of our locals are even one of my neighbors, Pam Lyons, she's one of our unofficial ambassadors. She's out there greeting the tourists on the streets and taking selfies with them. It's really fun. So, but I think we capitalize on our own small town feel. And
I agree. I'll tell you, one of the problems we've got on Route 66 right now, aside from the fact that we're still having trouble getting people to play well together in some locations, I'm worried we're getting a lot of focus on the Centennial, and I'm afraid that a lot of people, communities, and initiatives are seeing that as a destination, as an end point, instead of the kickoff for the second century. And the other part of that, it's linked with that, and I've been hearing this from quite a few internationals. I just had a tour from New Zealand I was talking with. They're kind of bugged by how much of a Disneyland feel Route 66 is developing. They're looking more for the authenticity. And you've managed in Pontiac to really capture both. You give it that whimsical feel, but you use it in such a way it highlights the small town instead of overshadows it.
Right. And we have a lot of businesses on the square that aren't just for tourists. They're for our locals too. And some of them predate all of this. And so we encourage all of our tourists to go downtown and shop around and, even hit the streets off to the sides and explore our swinging bridges and parks and things. And try not to rely too much on just gimmicks about Route 66. But we do have really good, have had really good leaders in our town. Betty Estes was the very first person who ever talked to me about Route 66. And I don't know if you've ever heard of her.
Yes.
Yeah. And she was just the first cheerleader for Route 66 in Pontiac that I know of. At the time, I had a shop on the square that was an antique shop. And she came in and said, Joyce, I think that I have a way to get customers downtown. And I said, well, thank goodness for that, because that would be great. And she said she thought Route 66 was the key. And I'm sure I looked at her like she was crazy, because at the time, to me, Route 66 was how you get to Dwight. I mean, I just didn't really see it as a tourist destination. But Betty was more well-traveled than I was, and she was probably hearing this in other countries and things more than I had.
Now, she started out greeting visitors out there at the Log Cabin restaurant, didn't she?
Yeah, and she's she was vivacious and outgoing, and when you were talking about getting everybody to work together, getting entrepreneurs to work together is like herding cats. Everybody is very independent. That's why we're entrepreneurs. And so it was hard to ever get even a night when everybody stayed open back then. And but Betty started promoting this whole idea of Route 66, and she started getting the ear of people in the city, people, heads of the mayor and the city administrator and different people, and somehow or another everybody got on board. And it was kind of an amazing thing to see, with all these different parts of the city getting together and working together.
It starts with one person, usually at the grassroots, very seldom at the top. It's somebody at the grassroots, and then it's leadership. I know that you had Scott McCoy kind of, kicked around some things, but I think it was Bob Russell,
yes,
and the tourism director there. They really started pushing this thing.
Yes. Bob Carls was the city administrator, and he got in on it too. And oh shoot, I'm drawing a blank.
Liz Vincent.
Yeah, Liz, but there's a tourism director before her who I'm friends with, and right now I'm having a senior moment and drawing her name. And she was just absolutely, they were all key in getting this whole thing going, I think. And I was just kind of watching from the sidelines. I had my shop. I closed it down, started it up again in the old city hall. And then, they put the museum in the old firehouse, which had been not falling down, but looking really bad inside. It was a mess. They restored that, put the museum in there. And I noticed we had a little shelf of things back then it was mostly antiques over in the old city hall. And we had a little shelf over there that didn't even face the door, and it had Route 66 souvenirs on it. And people would come in and they would find that and buy off of it. And finally I was like, I think I need to switch to selling Route 66 things and finding out more about Route 66. And, so I jumped on board too. And
that leadership, getting people excited about things. And I know Bob Russell, he got some opposition, some flack. Everybody did. Mm-hmm. It's the nature of things, but their ability. One of the things, again, I use Pontiac a lot when I speak on the economics of tourism. I use Pontiac as an example because building a sense of community is one of the first challenges. And the leadership in Pontiac did that admirably. And centralizing most of your events downtown. I find a lot of communities, for reasons I can't fathom, they start building a sense of community. They start revitalizing their historic district, but they have a park or a fairgrounds 5, 6, 7 miles from downtown. that's where they put their events instead of supporting the businesses. I never understood that.
Yeah, I don't understand that either. And we even sometimes would put something in a park. We still do, but it's usually the park that's closest to downtown, which is like it's like a block and a half from downtown.
Sure. But that's the only way you can support your businesses. People have a tendency to forget that tourism is more than just heads in beds. It's showcasing what makes your community unique and special,
right?
To potential investors, potential new residents. Yeah.
Yeah, and to me, Pontiac's downtown is a gem. I mean,
Yeah.
People used to, not shop as much downtown and stuff, but now I think that we have quite a few decent restaurants downtown, and we still have a theater in town where we can see movies, and we just still really use our downtown. And
Right.
It went through a period where it wasn't used as much, but now it's used a lot by locals and also, all of these festivals and things going on. Another thing that really, I think, enhances the town is the Pontiac Car Museum.
Ah, yes, the Pontiac Oakland Museum and Library.
And Tim and Penny Dye.
Mm-hmm.
They're brilliant at keeping that going, and they're in touch with all the car clubs, and it makes a big difference in town to have that in play also.
We have a diverse array of attractions, and that's also very important. I think something else to discuss this morning is Joyce Cole. Your artwork, you obviously have a gift and a talent for this. So I'm assuming you've been doing this pretty much most of your life?
Yeah, I would say all of my life, probably. I didn't think of myself as an artist all that time, but my mom said that when I was a kid, she would open the refrigerator and all the eggs would have faces looking out at her with different expressions. She would open the junk drawer and all the chalk looked like little people, I had drawn on them. And I think she was just glad I was drawing on that kind of stuff instead of the walls. But but my parents always encouraged all of us to do any kind of art or anything creative that we were interested in, as well as schoolwork. So
that's pretty neat. You've done illustrations for children's books as well?
Yeah, the only children's book I've done is the ABC What Do You See? Rolling Along Route 66 by Annette Murray. And she's from Tulsa. And she found me, I think, through my blog. She had seen my work on there, and I had a lot of things about Route 66 on there. And so I worked with her on that, and that was just a joy to do. It was so much fun. She is a retired teacher and an excellent writer. She just has a kind of a lyrical quality to that book. And we had a blast doing that book together.
So we'll have to get you to do some more of those. Anne Slanina has done very well with her Annie Mouse series of books. I'm a big fan of getting books in the hands of children, getting them started. So we'll have to find you some more projects for you to illustrate some more children's books.
Yeah, I'd be all for that. I love Anne's books, and we sell a lot of them at our shop. She's another brilliant teacher / artist, writer.
Yes.
So,
do you sell your artwork, Joyce, as prints or?
Yes, I sometimes have prints out. I've sold them through the shop and online. Sometimes I've had some of my artwork on T-shirts and things like that. I just look for places to feature my artwork. So,
do you have a website by chance?
I don't have one that I sell out of, but the shop has a Facebook page called Home Again on Route 66, and I have a Facebook artist page called Joyce Harbin Artist.
Okay.
And then I'm on Instagram through at Joyce Harbin Cole.
I'll screenshot some of your artwork because it's very distinctive. And when I publish this today, I will put that up because I've always your work intrigues me very much. It's just got a unique and distinctive style that I find very appealing.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
I think I think I have been influenced by a lot of different artists, and including people like Mary Engelbright,
Bod Waldmire.
Bob Waldmire.
Yeah,
because he also uses pen and ink and watercolor like I do. So
yeah,
I find his work it's amazing.
I detect a hint of his influence in your work, so I mentioned that.
Mm-hmm.
Your work is very distinctive. It's not Bob Waldmire's work, but his influence, I can catch a hint here and there.
Mm-hmm. He had a much more dense style.
Yes.
But mine is more kind of lighter and more open. But
yeah,
but we do have there's some similarities between us, I'm sure.
Yeah, Bob's work, and he also was a mural artist. He's done some murals. We have one here in Kingman. He had his Volkswagen repaired at an old Ford dealership on Route 66. That was a foreign car Volkswagen repair shop. And he used to stop here a lot and have his Volkswagen repaired, and he traded out a mural for some work. And so
I love that he did bartering with his work.
He was a big fan of that. Have you? You mentioned your mural there at the museum in Pontiac, at the shop in the museum. Have you done a lot of mural work?
Not a lot. My sister and I used to, long time ago, do murals. Mostly we did some of them in Kankakee, Illinois, because I had a sister-in-law that was living there, and she got us started working over there. And then since then I've done a few, like there's a couple my sister did one inside Old City Hall, and I did one adjacent to it. We're kind of filling that room up with artwork. And then trying to think any other murals. Mostly those, I guess. And but most of the time I work in travel journals.
Mm-hmm.
I carry my journals with me everywhere I go, sketch, and sometimes make completed drawings and paintings. And I find that when I draw when I'm traveling, I remember everything so much better. Everything about the place and how it felt, and it's just that it's when you're paying attention to it that closely, I think it just really embeds itself in your memory better.
Yeah, you're almost literally engraving it in your mind. The sights, the sounds, the smells.
Yeah.
But your travel journals would probably be pretty interesting to look through.
Yeah, sometime I would like to take a bunch of drawings out of my Route 66 one and maybe make them into a little book that could be sold.
That's a great idea, possibly for the centennial.
Yeah, and I still have time to do it. Good idea, Jim. I think I might work on that.
I think that would be very popular. How's the shop? You have such a delightful shop in the museum. It's like almost like a grandma's attic. So many little treasures here and there. Mm-hmm. I really enjoy that shop a lot.
Thank you. We try to keep it stocked with all kinds of things by different artists, and also keep our bookshelf full. Lots of Jim Hinckley books on there, and Anne Selena, and just a whole bunch of different authors, that we're all familiar with, who are familiar with Route 66 much. All the roadies that have read a lot of these books, and then your usual souvenirs and things too.
Yeah. That museum, like you say, it's the old City Hall and the fire station. Is that correct?
Yes, it's the old City Hall is the part that we're in, mm-hmm. And then the fire station is actually attached through the upper floors of the building, and that's where the Route 66 Museum and Hall of Fame is. It's a real interesting building.
It's a lot of fun to explore because it's almost like a maze.
It is.
Yeah, it's like a kind of like a maze, and it's surprises at every turn, every corner, every closet seems to have something unique and special.
Right. And we have some people that put together different displays in the museum. And the association itself does a lot of it, but then there's other people that work on these displays, and they are just so talented at putting them together. And you might round the corner and see Marilyn Monroe, in a 50s kind of a display, or, it's just it is fun to explore. And we have, because the police station was in the old city hall, we also have some jail cells. People are always surprised when they go upstairs and they're walking past the barred doors of the jail cells. And in those cells now, they have Efren Lopez's work.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
Very good.
And before that, Michael Campanelli had his work hanging in there. And so we've just switched them out recently. The city did. And
I can see some great promotion. Efren Lopez behind bars.
You know what? Next time he comes through, I should get a picture like that.
Yes, indeed. You also have the War Museum in the same building, right?
Oh, yes. We were talking about Betty Estes. Her husband, Dal Estes, is the one that started that museum. And so they were quite a couple, movers and shakers. And he started that museum. It's completely staffed by veterans. And it's an amazing, moving experience to go through there, because there's a lot of uniforms up there. And they're all uniforms from different people in Livingston County that have served in different wars, and they are on each uniform is the story of what that person did. So it's very personal. People come out of there with tears a lot of the time.
It's very moving. That's a very moving exhibit. This is the kind of it's the diversity. The communities that have been very successful on tapping into Route 66 tourism as a component or a catalyst for economic development and revitalization. The ones who do it successfully aren't myopic. They don't just see Route 66. They blend it. Mm-hmm. They use that to showcase what makes their community special. Tucumcari has done a pretty good job with that. They're doing some tremendous things in Tucumcari. Connie Loveland there with the Main Street director. They've got several great projects and things that are not Route 66 related, but are really popular.
That's awesome. I think that is a good key.
Yeah,
there's more to life than Route 66, even though some of us, have a hard time seeing that sometimes.
Oh yeah, I gotcha. And your museum there in Pontiac's a perfect example. You have the Route 66 Hall of Fame. You have artwork, artistry, the War Museum, the extensive Bod Waldmire exhibits, including his bus that he had repaired here in Kingman, and his eclectic motor home of his.
Yes, that is probably my favorite thing. I just love that bus. And one of these times, I've gotten permission already to do this. I would like to go into the bus when nobody's in there and spend hours just drawing the inside of the bus, because it's a fascinating place.
It's really, that bus is a manifestation of Bob's his mindset, his mind, if you will. It's and the diverse and his deep thinking. For those who aren't familiar, Bod Waldmire, if you do some research on this, was just an outstanding folk artist, and he was the inspiration for Fillmore in the movie Cars. My association with Bob started when he bought the old Hackberry General Store along Route 66 east of Kingman. And being the good old-fashioned kind of fellow I am, I lean kind of towards the redneck side of life, I suppose. When I first met Bob and he had moved out there, he had his Volkswagen bus, my first thought was, great. That's all we need is some hippie fella out here, doing this. And I just got drawn into his world. What an absolutely fascinating fella. And I'm glad that Pontiac had the foresight to preserve this.
Yes, and the Waldmire family too. They've gone
by all
great lengths to do that. And he is a fascinating person. I only met him a few times. I remember when he was working on the mural over at the museum, and I talked to him a little bit while he was doing that. But I didn't really know him well. And only recently I found out that my son, he said that he and one of his best friends growing up met him. And I said, you did? When was that? And Mario's Pizza, that's right on Route 66, they were in there having pizza, and Bob was in there also. And he said there was this old hippie dude, and he was drawing. And they started talking to him, and he drew them a postcard and sent them home with it. And I wish I had that postcard. They don't know where it is. So
there's another similarity between you and Bob, kindred spirits, if you will. Bob was always he couldn't sit down anywhere and not be drawing something.
Right.
He's just always drawing on a wall or drawing on a napkin or drawing something.
Yeah.
I used to tease Bob a lot that his world had ended with Woodstock. It just, he just never seemed to go beyond that. But yeah, it was pretty neat. If you ever get out to Santa Monica, this gets overlooked a lot. Ian Bolin and Dan Rice put together the Last Stop Shop, the End of the Pier place there, and they sign your certificate. And they've done a great job at drawing people a few blocks off Route 66 out onto Santa Monica Pier. But what a lot of people miss is at the very end of the pier, Mandy Mendelson was a very good friend of Bob's. Bob used to spend a lot of time on the pier. Mandy's had a shop out there on the pier a fishing shop, souvenirs since the early 90s. And there's a very expansive Bod Waldmire memorial with his artwork and some other things at the very end of Santa Monica Pier. Just a little bit of extra things to see and do on the road.
Yeah, I've heard that that's out there. And I actually used to buy a lot of magnets and things from Manny that he made, I think, or has made.
Yeah.
And a lot of them had Bob's artwork on them. But I haven't been out on 66 in California yet. I've done the whole route twice now. But each time once we got all the way to Oatman, you could see California from there.
Yeah.
But we couldn't, we had to turn back around because I had to get back to the shop. So.
Oatman, there's a couple things with Oatman. Since you've been to Oatman, and a lot of our fans today are familiar with Oatman. The two things I like about Oatman, number one, all the burros on the street.
Yeah.
And it's nice to see that not all the asses are in Washington. And number two, their mayor in Oatman is the most honest politician I've ever met in my life. He's got his own Facebook page, over 200,000 followers. It's Walter. He's a donkey. He's one of the burros. And he's got more followers than anybody I know. But it's kind of refreshing to see a politician that's that honest. He's an ass. He doesn't claim to be anything else. And here I am. Anyway, I digress. He's out there
greeting people in the streets, probably.
We're looking forward to our annual fall tour. Will be, of course, the Miles of Possibility Conference in Edwardsville, Illinois, at Wildy Theater again this year. Cheryl Jett and her crew have cooked up another great event. For people who aren't familiar with this, the Miles of Possibility Conference is the only event of its kind It kind of mimics the old U.S. Highway 66 Association conventions. And it's really the only event I know of on Route 66 that centers on, well, the business of Route 66, networking, promotion, marketing, that kind of thing. And it's a very informative and fascinating event if you have an opportunity to participate. And it's the weekend of October 31st this year. Hopefully I can get out of there before it snows.
Right. It's an amazing event. I love it. It's, if you're an artist or a writer who's interested in writing and drawing, making artwork about Route 66, it's artists and writers and business people, economic development people. It's, politicians, sometimes mayors and things of different towns. All aspects, I think, meet at Miles of Possibility, including roadies.
Yes. Well, you've got a real front row seat to the Route 66 community, if you will. What do you? I know it's changed dramatically since COVID, good and bad. A lot's changed. But what do you see coming down the pike for the future of Route 66, if I may ask?
Well, I see how important it is to start getting the kids into Route 66 because, a lot of the roadies are getting older.
Yes.
And it's real important to get the kids in. And Cars has done that to some extent, a large extent, actually, kids and adults. Cars movie. But we also I think we need even more tie-ins with children. So, and young families. I remember not too long ago, a couple of years ago, my daughter got me on Instagram, which I didn't really want to do. And she said, "You said that you want to reach kids. Those kids' parents are my age and we're on Instagram." So there's a lot of different ways to reach out to the young parents.
I'm seeing more and more of a shift towards that. And I think part of the way to do that is the younger generation. And at my age, that's anybody under 50. Prefer more interactive or more, things of that nature. And I'll give you an example. Like in Tucumcari, it's overlooked a lot. It's a little bit off Route 66. Is the Mesalands Community College Dinosaur Museum.
Oh, wow.
And they have a paleontology lab there. And it's the building's kind of nondescript, but it's an absolute surprise to find a Smithsonian quality museum like this in a place like Tucumcari. But for families, the college, I'm not sure if they started this again or not, but during the summer they offer paleontology digs. You can go out as a family, and I talked to the director there a couple of years ago about this. Things like that can really change a child or a young person's perspective about traveling the road.
Oh, absolutely. I don't know if there's any other options for things like that. Even like, I know in Arkansas, and this is not on 66, but there's a place where you can go and it's a diamond mine or gemstone mine, and kids love to go there. Adults too.
I think it's in Sapulpa, Oklahoma. Some people have started with a 1920s Packard, and they've added a Cadillac of similar vintage where they take you for a ride on Route 66.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's very similar to what is done in the Automobile Driving Museum in El Segundo. These kind of exhibits, we put together, Wade Bray, one of the organizers of the Tulsa Route 66 Road Fest, put together an interactive exhibit with Angel Delgadillo that's blending modern technology. The Route 66 Road Fest, I got to tell you, that's a template for developing events that for the whole family, become a family activity that spurs excitement and interest in Route 66 travel, but in American history and travel in general. I was very impressed with the Route 66 Road Fest. Very much so. Leanne mentioned Joey Medea. Yeah, he is working on a Livid Experiences that they've got a pretty ambitious project in development. He develops escape rooms, things of this nature, and they got a pretty extensive idea about creating like a scavenger hunt escape room for the entire Route 66 corridor.
Oh, that'd be amazing! Wow.
Yeah, that's a pretty ambitious endeavor.
It is. And didn't somebody just recently come up with something kind of like the Junior Park Ranger thing, but for Route 66? I'm trying to think who it was.
Sam, Reese Martin's wife.
Yes.
She's with Tulsa, City of Tulsa Centennial Commission, the Young Explorers Club. That's another template that could be plagiarized and used and customized for communities as well as states on all along the Route 66 corridor. And we don't not just on Route 66, but getting kids and young people interested in US 6, US 50 road trips, discovering America in general.
Mm-hmm.
Getting them out. Do you have any? I don't. Do you have any vintage like lodging opportunities in Pontiac?
We do not.
We
have the Palomar still. Part of it is still standing, and it
part
has
of it. Okay.
It used to be, I think, 3 different banks of rooms. Yeah. Now it's 1 bank of rooms, and but it's 2-sided. There's rooms on each side, and there used to be a pool there. And a lot of it's been torn down, but that one section is still there with its magnificent sign. It has an amazing mid-century sign. And I don't know what's going to happen with that. I wish somebody with some deep pockets would come along and turn that into our vintage motel, because it is a vintage motel.
It is a challenge to do that. I have great admiration for people who take on vintage motel projects. It seems like an opportunity to imitate a piñata, more of a Don Quixote thing, and jousting at windmills, if you will. But I'm very, very appreciative of people who do that. And I am seeing more and more people take on these projects, not just on Route 66, but in other communities. But on Route 66, I think it's more viable.
Right. There's a lot of traffic on 66, which is nice.
Yeah, the interest.
But I've seen some of them, even in little towns like Minden, Louisiana. Somebody took a vintage motel and has turned it into a great little place. There's just, you're right. I've seen that happening in other places too. And I see Rich Dinkla, he's just doing an amazing job with that Shamrock Motel in Missouri. Yeah. I look every day to see what he's gotten done because he's a busy guy.
Yeah, he is. We've got some great time capsules on the road, and I always encourage people. The first thing is with vintage motels, if you're looking for the Marriott, Holiday Inn Express, the Hampton, if that's your idea, that's the only place you're going to be comfortable. It doesn't matter how nice a vintage motel is, you're just not going to be happy.
Right.
So don't upset yourself or the owners. But if you've got a little bit of an adventuresome spirit and you want to keep that sense of Route 66 magic, and that's really what it boils down to, the magic of Route 66. It's you can find it at places, like the Wagon Wheel Motel. Mm-hmm. Of course, the Roadrunner Lodge in Tucumcari is one of my favorites. Check out their tiki rooms if you find yourself out that way. Blass and Angela have done a great job at Earl's Motor Court in Winslow.
Mm-hmm.
What do you have any real big projects? Is there anything planned for Pontiac coming up?
Yeah, there's going to be I think they're calling it Centennial Park or something, behind our building where Bob's large school bus home is. That's going to be all rearranged and turned into kind of a little plaza. You'll still be able to drive your car underneath the mural there and get your picture taken, but there'll also be places to sit, and I think there's going to be a new canopy over his school bus to kind of protect it, but it's also going to be a kind of a really cool canopy. with maybe some neon or something. I was just looking at sketches of it, so I'm no expert on this. You'd have to talk to Liz. But she was showing me some pictures, and it looks like it's going to be a nice, a whole nother feature to our museum experience there. So, and I don't, it would be good to, I don't even, I'm not as up on things as I ought to be because I'm busy in my little shop there, and I don't always hear all the news that's happening. Because Liz is a very busy woman coordinating stuff.
Yeah.
So, but I know that that's happening, and that's kind of a big deal. They already have blocked it off. Our museum has gotten a new roof this year, and so there's some big things coming up for the centennial.
Yeah.
I might try to get that little book that you were talking about with pages for my journal done.
Well, I know you could sell at least 2 copies because I would buy one.
Yeah.
And I know somebody else who would definitely want one of those. So just a little thought to put out there because I really enjoy your artwork immensely.
Thank you.
I'm looking forward to seeing your mural.
Oh, thanks. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to see what I come up with. Any questions for Joyce about Pontiac art, price of gas, anything at all? Join, ask away here. Before we get too late, Joyce, I do need to give a shout out to a couple folks here that's been kind of keep this thing going. And one is, of course, Connie Eccles down there at the Wagon Wheel Motel in Cuba, Missouri. She manages to she's done a pretty good job of blurring the line between past and present. And that's a great stop. Someplace you really have to experience. And my go-to place in Tucumcari, of course, is the Roadrunner Lodge. David Brenner has done almost miraculous. You talk about a property that was, I can't imagine how much drinking it would take to get me to take on a project like that. But he's done just an absolute astounding job. That rates, and I don't say this just because David is a sponsor. I say this because the property is so well done.
Right.
I mentioned the tiki rooms. The attention to detail in that is extraordinary. And Tucumcari gets, it's well worth exploring. And of course, Angela Moreland, I need to give a shout out for her. And she's taken on the Cactus Inn Motel in McLean, Texas. This is another aspect of Route 66 I find fascinating, is the manifestations of mental illness. Why else would you take on a 1956 motel in a town that's lost about 40% of its population? Because you enjoy it. You enjoy Route 66 and you have a vision. And I joke about it, but Angela's done amazing with that place. And I also work closely, of course, you mentioned Marion earlier. Marion Pavel, Route 66 navigation is something I can highly recommend for your Route 66 trip. If you've got the navigation app and Jerry McClanahan's Easy 66 guide, you got it. You can figure this out. This is a good trip. And if that's still too intimidating, well, there's Route Trip USA. They organize great road trip holidays on Route 66, United States, Canada. And not only do they travel extensively, Stephen and his wife, Chantel, they hire great consultants, like this fellow out in Kingman by the name of Jim Hinckley. He'll help develop tours for them. Gilligan's Route 66 Tours is another. Hey, Joyce, I enjoyed this conversation a lot. Oh, hey, we sold a 3rd copy of your book already.
Great.
Cheryl's here, and she says she wants a copy.
Oh, that's great. Excellent.
And she suggests Pages from My Journal as a title.
Oh, that sounds good to me.
I was going to go with Travels with Joyce, but that's just me.
Well, I'm kind of looking forward to this now.
I'm glad.
Having a little special something for just from our shop,
Yeah.
So
Thank you for doing this morning, taking time from your relaxation in Michigan, your getaway, to do this. I really appreciate it. I hope we've inspired people today to take a road trip or chase their dreams even. Any parting thoughts, Miss Joyce?
Yeah, do that dream chasing. Take the road trip, draw the pictures, make the music, write the books, do it all.
Yeah. I have a simple philosophy on that is if you have a gift and a talent, as you obviously do, you have a responsibility to develop that, to be a blessing onto others. In the money, we got to, we get used to eating on a regular basis. We got to keep that going. But if your focus is just on making $1 million, if that's all you think about, then when you make $1 million, you're still broke. So chase that dream. You got a talent. Do something with it. And your work, Joyce, I don't want to give you a big head so your hat don't fit, but your work really is a blessing to people.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Any questions for Joyce or any comments here that we need to take care of? Well, now I've went and done it. I didn't realize I was just scrolling through this message this morning. Apparently, David Brenner was with us this morning. So,
there you go.
Yeah, there we go. And we got Leanne from Oatman. She's doing a great job. She is really going to town up there in Oatman. She says that Walter won the last election by a landslide.
Of course he did.
Yes, he did. Walter, this will bring you up short, Joyce, as far as ego. Get your ego in check a lot. And I was really proud of myself before Facebook locked my page and then unlocked it. I had almost 8,000 followers on Facebook on the Jim Hinckley's America page. And I'm not a prideful person, but I was kind of proud of that just the same. And I went up to Oatman, did a little book signing, a little thing with Leanne, and had a picture with Walter. And we got home, and I was unaware that Walter, he does children's books. He signs children's books, and he has a line of T-shirts and children's books there in Oatman.
That's
and
awesome.
I didn't know that Walter had his own Facebook page and fan club. And if you want your ego in check, when you go to Walter's page and you find out that he has over 200,000 followers.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes. And as all I could think of is maybe I'm not a big enough ass.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's hard to compete with that.
Yes, it is. Folks, I really appreciate everybody who chimed in this morning. Joyce, I really am indebted this morning. I greatly appreciated you taking time for this conversation.
Well, thank you for having me.
I enjoyed it immensely. We're going to do something really neat next week. We're going to talk to Lisa Kensinger. She is the director at the Americana Motor Hotel in Flagstaff. Speaking of transforming properties, this is a huge complex, something like 80 rooms.
Wow.
And they have turned this kind of into a full-fledged resort property in Flagstaff. It was built in 1962. And, built in 1962. And they went through this thing from top to bottom. And, of course, being in Flagstaff, you've got access to the Grand Canyon, also skiing, and a few other things. So we're going to have some fun with that next week. After the week after that, we're going to talk to Pam Mitchell. She is with the Tourism Office Chamber of Commerce in Baxter Springs, Kansas, and I understand she's taking over the reins as the director of the Kansas Route 66 Association. So that should be kind of fun. Then on the 29th, we're going to talk to Carla Holmes and Sherry Cart from Gaylord University of Journalism, Oklahoma University. They've got a very interesting Route 66 educational program they're putting together. Speaking of getting young people involved, this is a program I think that'll also inspire you quite a bit.
Sounds like we have a good lineup coming up.
We try. The whole idea is not to make it a Jim show. It's about sharing America's story and telling people where to go. That's the whole idea. Pontiac's definitely a place to go.
Absolutely.
When a little throwback, I mentioned, I've spent my time in the North Country, and when Bob was mayor, we met in California at an event, and he told me, he said I should come back to Pontiac and he could find work for me. And I explained to Bob, I says, my wife and I both, we love, my dearest friend, we just love Pontiac. The biggest problem we have with Pontiac is it's in Illinois. And I just don't think I can do the cold anymore. The worse I get. Hey, Nolan has a question for you. Are visitors allowed to tour Bod Waldmire's school bus?
Yes, but it's only open. It depends on how much staff the museum has on hand. And then on certain days, of course, when we're having any kind of festival or anything going on, they make sure to have somebody out there so that it can be open. But yes, it's very interesting to go inside of. And if you're going to be visiting Pontiac, maybe call ahead and see if you can be there on a day when they're going to have it open.
That's well worth going through and exploring. Bob had he was fascinated by life and people and
nature.
It really, and nature, and it really shows in his bus, his artwork, his creativity. He had such a creative mind. It's really fascinating to see his thought process. So yeah, I'm glad, Nolan. There you go. It is open. Just need to call ahead a little bit. We got any other questions here for folks? No. I just had this show up as a text message. No, we were talking about Joyce's book, but it was just something we were talking about. Joyce has not written a book yet. We've got people interested, Joyce. We fired up people here.
All right.
They're interested in your book. This text message happened to come from a listener in, the Netherlands.
Oh, my goodness.
So,
wow.
Apparently, you have an international audience.
Well, that's great. It's good to hear. I will get to work on that because that's something I've been thinking about for a while. And I follow a lot of other journalers that have done that kind of thing. And actually have a whole collection of those kinds of books myself that were written by other artists. So,
what could be done, and just thinking outside the box here, kind of a flip ring book like Jerry McClanahan's Easy 66 Guide.
Mm-hmm.
Your artwork, your journal entries on one page, and the other side is blank for people to try their own hand at artwork and making their own journal notes.
I think that's a fantastic idea. Yes. I'd like to see people, if you draw, fine. If you write, fine. Whatever. If you can do something while you're on your trip like that. A lot of us do it with pictures, but it's nice to make notes as you go along or you forget more. So. Yeah,
I agree. Pictures have become too easy and you do forget. And because everybody, the old days, you mentioned us, older folks, I'm looking 70 in the eye. You were judicious in your pictures.
Right.
You just didn't spin and take pictures of everything because it cost money and time to develop film. So you were a little more judicious. And I think the proliferation of digital photography has kind of sanitized the experience, if you will. Yeah. It's not, whereas like you said, you take the time to draw what you're seeing, you're engraving it for future memories.
Absolutely. Yeah.
My friends, I've enjoyed this immensely as always. Anybody want to chime in before we leave? We can either do this as a call in or just text message or type in a message and we'll try to get you an answer. But if not, well, I guess what we'll do is bid everyone an adios with a little bit of music from my good friends there in Nashville, and Joe and Woody and the boys of the Road Crew at Road Crew 66. If you need inspiration or a theme song for your road trip, check out roadcrew66.com. I think you'll find some great tunes there. You bet, my friends. We've got Electric Route 66 with us. That'd be Mike and Jessica May from Las Vegas. This morning, we've got quite a little audience here this morning. We've got folks from Tucumcari and Scotland and East Lansing, Michigan, and a few other points in between. Kingman, Arizona, Oatman, Arizona. Yeah, very good. Joyce, we will see you, in about 8 weeks here. Won't be too long now.
Okay, sounds good, Jim.
Take care, my friends.
Adios.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Say hello to a new friend on an old road. Take a 2-lane trip of memories into mysteries unknown. Come along for the ride. Jim Hinckley's America. Jim Hinckley's America.
My friends, we'll have this published later today. It'll be on Spotify. It'll be on our Podbean website. And we have an embedded player now for these programs on theb.news. We have it on the Kingman Tours page, Jim Hinckley's America. Hey, and if you would like to embed our player on your website, send me a note. I'll get you the code. People can listen to the programs direct from your website. Another promotional opportunity. Until we meet again, my friends, vaya con Dios. Adios.